A woman, visibly pregnant, is suddenly struggling. She looks faint, clearly suffering from low blood sugar. A kind-hearted security guard, doing his job, rushes to get her a sugary drink. As the guard is bringing over the sugary drink, the pregnant woman subtly pulls out a smartphone that is coated in poison, which she uses to dose the drink. Right when that drink reaches the hand of the Russian ambassador to South Korea, he collapses, dead on the spot. The would-be assassin, pretending to be pregnant, tries to slip away. But another security guard, alert and on the ball, spots something suspicious. He cuts her off, and they end up in the elevator, a confined space leading to a brutal struggle. The security guard is outmatched physically, so he goes for broke. He pulls a concealed dagger from his boot and stabs at the pregnant woman's abdomen. The dagger hits nothing. The pregnancy is a fake. It's all part of the disguise. The assassin, skilled and deadly, instantly turns the tables, disarms the security guard, and uses his own weapon to take him down. Now, because of the commotion, the elevator's malfunctioned and it's going back to the party floor. She grabs the guard's gun and starts firing, creating cover as she blasts her way back into the reception hall, causing even more panic and mayhem. She manages to get in touch with her extraction team, desperately calling for backup. A voice comes over the comms, a guy named Mike, speaking from a nearby tech room. Use the service stairs to get out of there, he directs. She expertly uses the confusion to her advantage. Smashes windows, causes distractions, leading security down blind alleys. Once they are off the trail, she follows Mike's escape route. The pregnant woman is actually Rebecca, a highly trained assassin working for a private intelligence organization called Kerrion. Her mission: assassinate the Russian ambassador in Seoul. But here's the kicker. Rebecca doesn't know she's being watched, hunted, herself. Back in the tech room, Mike is coordinating the getaway car when suddenly there's a knock at the door. A Korean man is yelling, insisting Mike has the wrong room. The moment Mike gets to his feet to investigate, the door is kicked in. The Korean guy is a wrecking ball. He takes down Mike with incredible speed and efficiency, leaving him unconscious on the floor. The intruder then gets his hands on the extraction point intel and immediately sends Rebecca a false rendezvous location. Then, with the stolen equipment, he races to a point on the route that Rebecca is forced to take. There, he uses a doll dressed as a baby to fake an obstruction in the road. Rebecca's getaway driver, completely unsuspecting, falls right into the trap. The Korean man steals the car and drives to the real rendezvous point, setting the final piece of his trap, waiting for Rebecca to get in the car. But Rebecca is a pro. She spots something. A scratch on the headlight, a detail that screams wrong car. She instantly knows something is wrong. She spins around and starts firing at the car, preventing the driver from moving. The gunshots alert the Korean police, forcing the driver to flee. But here's the biggest twist of all. The driver wasn't trying to hurt Rebecca at all. It's her father, David, who has been missing for 9 years. His actions were all aimed at one thing: forcing Rebecca to leave the Kerrion organization. His plan failed. Back at Kerrion headquarters, the big boss, Juno, gets word that the Seoul operation has gone sideways from her son, Win. Yeah, the ambassador is dead, mission accomplished in that regard. But the extraction went completely off the rails. 3 agents were ambushed. The only saving grace: the local Korean police haven't linked anything back to Kerrion. Yet, here's the really dirty secret. Kerrion presents as an intelligence trading company. But Juno, who's American, is selling US military secrets and secrets from allied nations to Russian intelligence. The assassination of the Russian ambassador was meant to be a smokescreen, a way to cover her tracks and keep the CIA off her scent. But things have gone off the rails now. Juno's face darkens. She barks out an order to Win: find Rebecca and find her now. There's a hint of jealousy in Win's eyes. It's clear to him that, in his mother's eyes, Rebecca is valued more than her son. Juno continues, her voice cold. Have you found out who's behind this disruption? Win shakes his head. No solid leads. We only know the other side is acting alone and seems to know our every move. Juno's eyes flash with a murderous glint. Then we need to eliminate him. Meanwhile, David, Rebecca's father, is meticulously erasing all traces of himself from the stolen car. He ditches it in a parking lot. This is a make-or-break moment for him. He promised his current wife, if I can't bring our daughter back this time, I'm done. I'm out. He already faked his own death to escape this life to build something new. But he can't truly turn his back on Rebecca. He grabs his phone and calls his wife, Kim. He speaks softly. You know the deal we made, but Rebecca needs me. Kim reminds her husband, if Kerrion finds out you're still alive, they'll kill you and our family. David quickly reassures her, I won't let that happen. Pack your bags now. Take the boat out of here tomorrow. Don't leave anything that can be traced. He hangs up, knowing he just risked everything. Back in Seoul, Rebecca, after escaping the chaos, takes the initiative and calls Juno, demanding answers. What the hell is going on? But Juno deflects, casting suspicion back on Rebecca. She accuses Rebecca, as the mission lead, of leaking information that led to the ambush of the extraction team. It's like a knife in the gut. In the years since her father disappeared, Rebecca has come to see Juno as her only family, the one who treated her best. Now, the one person she trusted the most is accusing her of betrayal. Rebecca's voice trembles as she replies, "I would never do that." Juno realizes she went too far and quickly softens her tone. "If you don't believe that, then find the one who sabotaged us." At the same time, David returns to the parking lot where he left the stolen car. He writes a small note with specific coordinates. Then he punches out the window, triggering the car alarm. He calls a taxi and heads straight to Incheon to visit his old friend, Choi. Choi is the one who helped David erase his past and create a new identity all those years ago. Seeing David's tense expression, Choi asks, "What's wrong?" David is direct. "I need your help one more time. I need you to create a new identity for my daughter, Rebecca." He tells Choi, his old friend, "All these years, I thought she was safe. But knowing she's working for Juno is a death sentence. I can't just sit back and watch my daughter die." Seeing the determination in David's eyes, Choi simply nods. "Okay, but give me at least 2 days to get the false documents." Meanwhile, on the other side of Seoul, Rebecca stumbles upon the note with the coordinates that David intentionally left behind. She immediately tells Mike to trace the location. Little does she know, David is already preparing for a showdown, waiting for Rebecca to lead Kerrion right to him. Not long after, Rebecca and her team arrive at the address. On a table, she suddenly sees a familiar Korean pancake. It's a dish her father used to buy for her all the time. Rebecca is drawn to it, stepping closer, unaware that David has set a trap. As Rebecca is lost in thought, there's a sudden, deafening explosion. Rebecca's small team loses 2 agents instantly, leaving only her and Mike alive. They scramble to the upper floor, and they catch a glimpse of their attacker escaping. Rebecca and Mike immediately give chase, splitting up to search. Mike is the first to encounter David, but he's no match for the trained man. In just a few moves, David knocks Mike unconscious with his gun. David continues further into the building, exactly as he planned, and finally comes face to face with his daughter. As Rebecca enters the room, she immediately sees a photo of her and her father. And then, in that very second, she sees David, the man she thought was dead for 9 years, standing right in front of her. She's overwhelmed with anger, hurt, and shock. "If you weren't dead, then why did you abandon me all these years?" Seeing his daughter on edge and so distrusting, David sets down his gun, his voice gentle. "I know you deserve an explanation, but we need to get out of here now." Rebecca, lost in her emotions, refuses to listen. David has to reveal, "I'm doing all of this to protect you. I only want you to come with me." David thinks he's gotten through to her, but suddenly Rebecca attacks him and knocks her father unconscious. Afterwards, she calls Juno, confronting her. "Did you set me up to find my father?" Hearing this, Juno is stunned. She had no idea David was still alive. If she did, she would have had him eliminated long ago. Rebecca has just confirmed the truth, and Juno is furious. At the same time, she secretly sends a message to someone. Just then, David wakes up. He's not angry at his daughter for knocking him out because he knows he's guilty after 9 years of absence. As the father and daughter are talking, Mike suddenly appears, about to shoot David. But Rebecca reacts quickly, shooting him in the head. Rebecca approaches Mike and discovers that he received a message from Juno with the order to kill David. After what she discovered about Mike, a terrifying question consumes her. What exactly is Juno planning? The next day, the father and daughter stop at a convenience store to stock up on supplies. Rebecca seizes the opportunity to confront her father directly. She asks him point blank, "Where are you taking me?" David responds, his eyes unwavering, "I'm taking you to Busan. We'll get new passports and leave this country. We're never coming back." Hearing the plan, Rebecca doesn't immediately agree. She intentionally causes a bit of a scene with David, and then makes an excuse to go to the restroom. But, in reality, she's making another call to Juno. She demands, "Why did you want to kill my father?" Juno responds, her voice cold, "David is dangerous. If you come back, Kerrion will always have a place for you." Rebecca lets out a bitter laugh. "That sounds nice, even though I know it's not true." Meanwhile, David grows anxious when his daughter doesn't return. He bursts into the restroom to check. He finds the window wide open. He desperately runs to start the car, ready to chase after her, fearing the worst. But then, he finds out that Rebecca never left. It was all just a test to make David sweat. Immediately after, the father and daughter finally begin their journey to Busan. But their trip doesn't last long. A traffic stop by the local police pulls them over. It turns out that Juno, through cell phone tracking, has discovered their location and bribed a patrol team to ambush them. The situation escalates when the police ask David for his ID. They're forced out of the car, but these two aren't going down without a fight. In a flash, the two of them act in unison, disarming the young officer. Rebecca is about to fatally shoot the young cop, but David quickly intervenes, stopping her. Instead, the bullet grazes his arm. They steal the police car and make their escape. David drives recklessly against traffic, managing to escape. News of the failed ambush reaches Juno, darkening her mood. Win, witnessing his mother's reaction, is even more confused. You and Dad founded Kerrion together. How did it come to this? But Juno doesn't answer. She remains silent. Immediately after, Win tracks down David's current address. The house is registered under the name of Kim, his current wife. Kim turns out to be the daughter of a wealthy businessman, the owner of a shipping company in Seoul. 7 years ago, she married a man named Daeho. Juno immediately understands. Daeho is the false identity that David created after faking his death. To eliminate this threat, Juno decides to hire Gun, a highly skilled Korean assassin, at an exorbitant price, giving him the mission to hunt down and kill David. As for David, he's not naive. The fact that they were tracked so quickly can only mean one thing. There's a traitor close to him. David takes Rebecca to a secret location owned by one of his old friends. Then, he finds a way to trick her into drinking a rice wine that is laced with a powerful sedative. Once Rebecca falls into a deep sleep, David searches through all of her belongings. He finds the dedicated smartphone she uses to communicate with Juno. At the exact same time, Juno arrives at Kerrion's Seoul branch. Soon after, Senator Charlie approaches her directly. Charlie's initial goal was to meet with the Russian ambassador. But before he could, the ambassador was assassinated. There's a pipeline funneling critical US intelligence to the Russian FSB. I want to know who's behind this, Charlie demands. Little does he realize the mastermind is sitting right in front of him. Juno keeps her composure, lying. If I hear any valuable information, I'll immediately inform you. Charlie is completely unsuspecting. He has no idea Juno is the leak. Later that evening, Rebecca slowly regains consciousness. She immediately realizes that her secret has been exposed. Rebecca admits that she did call Juno twice. David presses his daughter, wanting to know what they talked about. Rebecca lowers her head, speaking softly. I just wanted to talk to her. You suddenly appeared and ruined my relationship with Kerrion, dragging me into this chaotic mess. Why are you doing this? David looks at his daughter, saying without hesitation, because I love you. Everything I'm doing is to protect you. But Rebecca just laughs bitterly. Making me an orphan? Is that how you protect me? David is stunned. He explains, 9 years ago, my special forces team was hired to track down Oma and his terrorist organization. But during the investigation, I discovered that detailed information about you and me was in the terrorist database. They're ruthless. They never give up on their targets. They're willing to do anything to achieve their goals. David's voice cracks, his eyes turn red. Before I could return to my daughter, my team was ambushed. All my comrades were killed. I was the only survivor. I knew they wouldn't spare us. I had to fake my death. Only then could you grow up in peace. David chokes back tears. But that decision has turned my life into torture. For 9 years, I haven't stopped thinking about you. I never gave up. That's why, today, despite the danger, I have to appear before you, Rebecca. But as soon as he finishes speaking, Kim calls. She's frantic, and she tells her husband that 2 men are following her. David tells her to find a place to hide. He'll be there soon. Rebecca, standing nearby, asks softly, It's a woman, right? David sighs. That's my wife. At first, David doesn't want Rebecca to risk her life to come with him, but she insists on following him to the high-speed rail station. Inside the station, many of Juno's men lie in wait, ready to spring the trap on David. David quickly takes down several men, then intentionally lures the rest toward the security checkpoint to buy Kim time to board the train. But that also forces the father and daughter to split up, facing their enemies alone, quickly eliminating them. But as David steps onto the stairwell, he comes face to face with the assassin, Gun. The assassin, Gun, doesn't say a word, he just attacks. David can't dodge in time. He takes a knife to the gut and is kicked down the stairs. In that moment, Rebecca leaps in to help. Thanks to her, they all get on the train and reunite with Kim. But as soon as Rebecca sits down, she's frozen. David has a little daughter about 7 years old. All these years, he was out of touch and a shadow. But she sees him being a dad to this other child. The thought makes Rebecca choke up. She feels jealousy and anger. David calls Choi right away. He needs those fake passports and they need to be delivered. Choi agrees, makes a note of the time and place on his computer. Meanwhile, Rebecca's anger is building. You tell me how much you missed me, she says. But it didn't take long after you faked your death to remarry and have a new kid. Every word is directed at Kim. Kim tries to calm her down, but Rebecca won't listen. Rebecca stares at her father. Her voice shook with anger. You replaced me and Mom with these Korean copies. David shakes his head, saying quickly, I didn't replace anyone, you don't understand. I risked everything to find you, but Rebecca cuts him off. Instead of saying those empty words, think about how we're going to get out of this. With Juno, she's going to have people waiting for us at the next stop. She's right. Juno has sent a team, including Gun. But David's got a plan. He looks around for the right moment, then pulls the emergency brake on the high-speed train. Before Juno's people can get to them, David pulls everyone off the train and gets away. Juno sees it on the map and guesses they'll try to escape from a nearby truck stop. She tells Gun to go after them. Sure enough, David has flagged down a truck headed to Busan and is begging the driver for a ride. But Gun catches up. He sees handprints on the truck. He orders them to stop. When the doors open, the truck is empty. It was a diversion. Thanks to this distraction, they successfully reach the safe house in Busan. Elsewhere, Charlie finds Juno, handing her a file. Inside, there's a picture of Win with a close friend. Charlie says, the kid walking next to your son is a CIA agent. He studied in America, his family does real estate in Gangnam, but he was murdered in the States. It's all over the news. Charlie is telling Juno that Win was involved in the murder. He adds that the CIA is now watching Win. After Charlie leaves, Juno confronts her son. Turns out, Win did kill the CIA agent. One mistake could bring the whole thing down. Win doesn't care. Weren't you using the ambassador to kill that Russian spy? If the organization falls apart, it's not my fault. Win says, let me handle this. I don't want to live in your shadow forever. While that's happening, Gun tracks down Choi's shop. The two men start fighting. But Choi is retired and injured. He's not a match for Win. Still, Choi refuses to give up David. But the paper with the time and location falls into Gun's hands. Gun calls Juno. David is in Busan and will be picking up fake passports. Juno decides to use this as a training opportunity for her son. She sends Win to work with Gun, telling Gun to make sure Win is safe. Back with Rebecca, all the bottled-up emotions come out. Rebecca yells at David, accusing him of being selfish. He said he abandoned her to protect her, but had another daughter and gave her all his love. David tries to explain, but they don't have time. They have to get the passports and get out of Korea. He just manages to say, I'm sorry, before he goes to pick up the passports. While this is going on, Juno has a long think about everything. She calls Charlie and puts Rebecca's file in front of him. She's the one who killed the ambassador. She shows him evidence that her father, a former special agent, helped her escape. Juno swears that she and Win had nothing to do with the CIA agent's murder. Charlie seems to buy it. Meanwhile, David gets to the meeting point, but Choi's phone is off. He feels a sense of dread. He sees Juno's people in the crowd. Pinned down from both sides, David's forced to bolt straight into a narrow alley. But every single move he makes is being watched crystal clear by Gun from above. It's not that Gun's in a rush. He's deliberately letting David go to lure the whole school of big fish into the net. David makes it home, but before he can even have a bite of birthday cake with his little daughter, he has to rush everyone to pack their things and get ready to run to the docks. Before long, Gun finds the house empty and immediately leads his men to chase after them in the direction of the port. David plans to take the whole group to Jeju Island to lay low, but before they can set sail, Juno's forces descend and surround the docks. At this point, retreat is no longer an option. David tells Kim to quickly take his little daughter and run away, while he and Rebecca will stay behind to hold off the enemy. Rebecca immediately springs into action, creating an opportunity for David to quickly make a makeshift bomb. Thanks to David's accurate timing calculations, he and his daughter manage to retreat to a safe distance just as the enemy is about to give chase. The oil drums explode, sending them flying into the air. However, a few of them manage to survive. Gun immediately orders his men to split up. He'll deal with David directly, and Rebecca will be handled by Win. David and Gun face off once again. The two of them engage in a fierce battle, evenly matched, making it difficult to determine a victor. However, in a moment of carelessness, David gets tangled up in a steel cable, and Gun seizes the opportunity to finish him off. Luckily, David manages to pull out his gun and shoot Gun in the stomach, causing him to fall into the water. On Rebecca's side, things are also looking promising. Win is all talk, but he's no match for her in reality. Rebecca easily taunts him with her gun, making him spin around like a puppet. Finally, Win runs out of bullets and has no way out. He's forced to flee. Just then, David suddenly appears, blocking his path. He coldly pulls out his gun, pointing it straight at Win. Terrified by David's threat, Win reveals the truth. Juno sold David out to Oma and provided all the files about him and his family. The goal was clear: to eliminate David and monopolize power. Before long, Juno receives a call from her son, but on the other end of the line, the voice is David's. It's time to settle the score. The next morning, the cleanup crew is sent to clear the battlefield. Unexpectedly, Gun is still alive. After hearing the news from Gun, Juno is furious. She orders her subordinates to urgently investigate David's whereabouts, especially focusing on his wife's family. However, the subordinates report that there's a powerful force backing the elderly couple, so they haven't been able to get accurate information yet. Meanwhile, David, his wife, and his daughter are safely inside the house, surrounded by his wife's parents at the dining table. It's a simple family meal, but for this son-in-law, it's a rare moment of warmth. Although he's not particularly fond of his son-in-law, the father-in-law can't do anything about it. His daughter has chosen David, so he has to reluctantly accept it, having only finished about half a glass of alcohol. David finally dares to ask for a favor. He needs help getting an unofficial visa and a safe route to enter Japan. More importantly, he wants to include his wife's family so that everyone can board a cargo ship to Fukuoka in 2 days. Only then can he guarantee everyone's safety. Initially, the father-in-law is furious, thinking this request is too risky, but out of love for his daughter, he reluctantly agrees, promising to take care of everything. Meanwhile, Juno is worried about her son, so she proactively offers a trade. If David spares Win, she'll leave David's family alone. Switching the scene to Charlie, he never believed Juno's words. Rebecca is just a pawn that Juno is sacrificing. At this moment, David listens to Juno's voicemail message again, and a plan comes to mind. He enters the jail cell where Win is tied up. Without beating around the bush, David immediately sows seeds of doubt between the mother and son. He says that he tried to propose a deal, using Win's life in exchange for the safety of himself and his family, but Juno flatly refused. David then plays a spliced recording as evidence. Clearly, with the addition of David's skillful instigation, the simple-minded Win immediately believes him. He tells David that the Kerrion organization used to sell intelligence to Russia and the ambassador, acting as intermediaries in these transactions. To eliminate the aftermath, Juno ordered Rebecca to assassinate the ambassador. As for the recent assassination of the CIA agent, it was because he found concrete evidence, and to cover it up, Win had to kill the man. By the next morning, all the pieces had fallen into place for David. He immediately informs Rebecca that Congressman Charlie is following the lead and is currently in South Korea. In other words, as long as David and Rebecca hand over the evidence that Charlie needs, the US government will step in and deal with Juno. David immediately decides to take Rebecca back to Seoul. He tells Kim to take his daughter and go into hiding with his in-laws in a safe place, while he and Rebecca drive through the night back to Seoul. Their first target is Charlie's assistant. They find an opportunity to steal the data from his phone, allowing them to know Charlie's travel schedule. Right after that, they follow him to the food street, where Charlie will be visiting. When he arrives, David immediately calls him, saying he has a way to overthrow Juno and requesting a private meeting. Charlie hesitates for a moment, but finally agrees. David devises a plan to create a commotion, escape the protective circle, and successfully approach Charlie. David gets straight to the point. He has evidence to prove Juno's crimes, but the condition is that he and his daughter must be granted immunity from prosecution. Charlie silently thinks for a few seconds, then nods in agreement. Right after that, David intentionally leaves Win behind in an alley near the meeting place, and David continues to sow suspicion in Win's mind. On Juno's side, her subordinates have discovered that Charlie was out of contact for about a minute, and coincidentally, Win was brought back from a nearby street. Although her son has returned safely, David's little plan still makes Juno suspicious. The next morning, David and Rebecca watch the mother and son. They see Juno personally preparing breakfast for Win, looking like an affectionate mother and son pair. But then she can't help but ask, what did Win tell David? At first, Win tries to lie, but Juno, who understands her son best, sees through him with just a glance. With no other choice, Win tells the truth. After hearing it, Juno's expression subtly changes. She says it's nothing, but her attitude suddenly becomes cold. David and Rebecca see this clearly, continuing to strengthen their plan to make Win increasingly suspicious and resentful of his mother. Right after that, they find an opportunity to break into the building's monitoring room. David and Rebecca erase the surveillance footage recording their entry into the building. Rebecca also hacks the communication system, successfully obtaining all the data from the security cameras. Thanks to this, they easily avoid the bodyguards and finally break into the apartment where Win is staying. David immediately begins installing a listening device, while Rebecca stands guard outside. Unexpectedly, Win returns early, forcing them to speed up and retreat, just seconds before Win opens the door. Because David intentionally made the device very sloppy, Win quickly discovers the bug behind a painting on the wall. His expression immediately turns pale, thinking that his mother had someone install it. Afterward, David meets Charlie again. Suspecting that there is a mole close to Charlie working for Juno, David suggests that he set a trap to lure the traitor out. Charlie then drafts a top-secret document stating that a high-ranking witness is about to come forward and accuse Juno and the Kerrion group. Sure enough, the mole quickly transmits this news to Juno. Charlie witnesses the leak firsthand, and Juno falls for the trap. David believes that her son, Win, is the high-ranking witness, and immediately orders his subordinates to closely monitor all of Win's actions. Rebecca reminds David that this alone isn't enough to make Win completely betray his mother. To succeed, they have to hit his psychological weak spot. Win is cowardly, and the thing he fears most is death. This is a point they can exploit. If they make him believe that his mother wants to eliminate him, Win will definitely run to Charlie for help. The two put their plan into action. That evening, when the security team takes Win home, they still send a text message to report the situation, as usual. But in Win's eyes, the message has a different meaning. He thinks that Juno is arranging to have him killed. In a panic, Win quickly arms himself with a knife for self-defense. Right then, Juno unexpectedly appears at his house, saying she has a gift for him. Win opens the box and finds a bow inside. "Tonight, come home. This place is no longer suitable for you." But Win doesn't want to. He thinks he has devoted many years to the company. How can he be kicked out just like that? He still harbors the ambition to inherit the entire business and absolutely cannot be willing to leave. Juno then says bluntly that she discussed it with the board of directors during the day and decided to transfer Win to work in the bank with his father. As a result, Win resists even more fiercely. Win angrily snatches the car keys and rushes out. Juno immediately orders her men to follow him, fearing that something unexpected will happen to her son. Rebecca quickly picks up the signal and immediately informs David. The operation begins. David then pretends to be the security team driving behind Win. Soon after, Rebecca joins the chase. The two coordinate closely, forcing Win onto the route they have prepared. When the time is ripe, David stops pursuing him and switches to using the device he installed earlier, cutting off the power to Win's car remotely. Win is forced to get out of the car. As soon as he steps outside, David activates a nearby time bomb. The exploding scene makes Win even more convinced that his mother really wants to eliminate him. Panicked, Win immediately calls Charlie, agreeing to cooperate, promising to tell the whole truth in exchange for protection and immunity. Charlie is very pleased and immediately contacts David. If Win reveals even a part of the truth, it will be enough to become evidence to indict Juno and the Kerrion group. Today is indeed a day to celebrate. David and Rebecca pour drinks together to celebrate their initial victory. While drinking, Rebecca suddenly confides that she never had a proper education. The only thing she's good at is killing people, but that's what she really likes. Hearing this, David tries to persuade her, saying that's not her real dream, but only the result of Juno turning her into a killing tool. Now Rebecca still has a chance to turn onto the right path. But Rebecca shakes her head firmly, saying that she voluntarily sought out Juno, that it was all her own choice, and no one forced her. David is speechless, not knowing how to respond. At that moment, the surveillance screen sounds an alarm. Juno's subordinates have tracked them down. The number of enemies is too great, and David and Rebecca can't fight them off, so they have to find a way to retreat. The two hurry to split up and flee, agreeing to meet on the riverbank. Unexpectedly, just as Rebecca is about to escape, Gunn drives a car and crashes into her. When David chases after them, he sees Rebecca being captured and dragged away. He has no choice but to hop on a motorcycle, desperately chasing after the convoy. David risks his life in pursuit, almost sacrificing his own, but ultimately can't catch up to the car carrying Rebecca. The next day, Rebecca is brought to meet Juno again. But before Juno can gloat for long, Rebecca bluntly exposes her. "Your son has run over to Charlie and become his witness. Just wait, very soon, your own flesh and blood will point you out and send you to prison. By then, the entire Kerrion group will fall apart." Juno's expression immediately changes, and she hurriedly runs out to verify the news. A moment later, when she returns, she has regained her usual calm and composed demeanor. By doing so, Rebecca, in fact, in addition to helping David, is also filled with resentment. She wants Juno to taste the feeling of having her family destroyed by others, the feeling that she has had to endure for so many years. Rebecca says coldly, "It was you and David who blew up Win's Porsche," making him believe that it was his mother's conspiracy. That's why Win ran over to Charlie. Hearing this, Juno just throws Rebecca the key to the handcuffs. Rebecca happily unlocks the cuffs and teases, "Maybe you should worry about that burning empire of yours. It doesn't matter to me anymore. All I need is you." After that, Juno starts using the same tactics that David often used, preying on psychology, trying to divide the relationship between David and Rebecca. She asks Rebecca directly, "Where is your home? With David and his new wife? Do you have a place there? And me? I've always treated you like my own daughter." These words seem to touch the deep loneliness in Rebecca's heart. Her eyes flicker for a moment, flashing a trace of complexity, but very quickly, she returns to her usual cold look. Even so, Rebecca finally chooses to leave with Juno. At this time, the FBI is also closing in on Kerrion headquarters. Therefore, Juno and her entourage have to leave South Korea immediately. Rebecca is in Juno's convoy, following her towards Incheon Airport, preparing to board a flight. Meanwhile, David, with no other choice, has to turn to his father-in-law for help. He needs someone to help him. He needs vehicles and weapons to save Rebecca. After hearing this, the father-in-law nods in agreement, saying he can help, but in exchange, David must also help him complete a task. Without hesitation, David immediately nods. No matter what, saving his daughter is the top priority at this moment. After receiving full support from his father-in-law, David is quickly equipped with modern equipment and gathers a small elite team. He personally leads the troops, rushing towards the target. Before long, the FBI forces storm into Kerrion headquarters, controlling all personnel and documents within. In another direction, Juno's convoy has entered the ambush area that David has prepared. David cuts the power at the control box, causing all the traffic lights on the route to be paralyzed. Immediately, the entire intersection is gridlocked. Detecting something unusual, Juno quickly orders a change of direction. David smirks coldly, ordering Team 1 to begin the mission. Soon, one of David's trucks suddenly rushes out, blocking the road. Forced to continue changing direction, Juno's convoy turns onto a narrow road under construction. Immediately, all the teams simultaneously block the front and rear, deploying a siege. Juno immediately understands that David is behind it. She yells, ordering her subordinates to desperately break through the encirclement. David quickly leads his men to chase after them in their cars. The two sides finally face off directly. Just as they make contact, Juno immediately loses one of her escort vehicles. Next, the second vehicle is blocked by a heavy industrial vehicle with no way to retreat. Juno can only order her subordinates to fight to the death. Gunn actively gets out of the car, trying to find a way to escape. David immediately chases after him, but as soon as Gunn separates from the formation, Rebecca rushes forward to attack Juno. She can't restrain her hatred, launching a continuous barrage of blows at her. Clearly, what was previously just pretended endurance has now turned into a real storm. Meanwhile, David faces Gunn directly for the third time. Unfortunately, David's gun jams at this moment. The two are forced to engage in hand-to-hand combat. Initially, David is overwhelmed by Gunn, constantly retreating, but before long, he finds an opportunity to counterattack, using a heavy chain to strike Gunn hard, causing him to stagger. Then, David uses all his strength to force him to the ground and unleashes a barrage of punches. But even when he's been beaten nearly unconscious, Gunn stubbornly reaches for a weapon to continue fighting. With no other choice, David is forced to pull out a knife and finish him off on the spot. Finally, David hurriedly returns to his daughter. At this time, Rebecca has Juno under control. Just as David raises his gun to fire the finishing shot, Rebecca unexpectedly speaks up, begging him not to. She says she doesn't want Juno to die because Juno is an indispensable part of her life. David is stunned. Finally, for his daughter's sake, he slowly lowers his gun. Afterward, David drives Rebecca back on the road, while Juno boards a flight to a country that doesn't have an extradition treaty with the US. Kerrion has collapsed, but Juno is not discouraged. She believes she can build a new empire. Meanwhile, David brings Rebecca back to reunite with Kim and his little daughter. He thinks that from here on out, a happy life will finally begin. But things take a completely different turn. In the evening, the whole family goes to a restaurant for dinner. While eating, Kim and Rebecca go to the bathroom together, but they don't come out for a long time. David feels that something is wrong, so he hurries to check. Before his eyes is a horrifying scene. Kim's throat has been cut deeply, blood gushing non-stop, but Rebecca has disappeared without a trace. David is in extreme pain. While trying to stop the bleeding for his wife, he chokes and asks, "Was it Rebecca?" But Kim is no longer able to speak. David screams in despair. Kim's death is definitely a major shock. Rebecca has disappeared, but did she actually kill Kim? Or was she just framed? Stay tuned for part 2 of the movie. The movie ends here. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye and see you in the next videos.